Hey, Fragrance Journey 01, what's going on, man? First one to join, so that's cool. That's cool. All right, let's make sure we're. All right, African Sunflower. How you doing, my love? Okay, people. Let's give some time for people to roll in. All right. What's going on, guys? Hey, we're going to be talking about brass and soul today. Let's wait for some people to roll in. Let's wait. I'm really excited. We're going to be talking to JC himself from Stay Fresh Productions, so this is going to be a fun combo. All right, we'll wait until JC steps in the room. Hey, Stay Fresh Productions in the building. What's going on, sir? Hey, if you can hear me okay, let me know. Awesome, awesome. All right, we'll wait. We'll wait a minute or two, let some people roll in. All right. Cool, good stuff, good stuff. Getting a cozy room here. All right. All right, you guys hear me okay? Good, good. All right, I'm pumped, guys. I'm pumped. This has been an event in the making. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So we'll start after another minute. Let some people see the live notifications. You know, people get their cameras ready. You know, get their dinner and all that fun stuff. All right, all right. Wait one more minute. Not a minute more. All right. Just one more minute. All right, JC, I'm gonna go ahead and add you. I see you in the building. Give me a second. Okay. All right, let's see how this works. All right. See if this works, JC. Hey, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm great, man. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, man.
Great. How's it going?
Hey, good, good. Things are well, man. I can't complain. It's been a great week, fun week,
Mm.
eventful. How about yourself?
Same. No complaints. Even
Yeah,
if I could, it wouldn't change anything. Um, but feeling good. Yeah,
good.
everything's
Glad to
great.
hear it, man. Glad to hear
Yeah.
it. I dig the glasses, by the way.
Thanks, man. Trying to cut out the blue light. you know.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Getting real hipster with it. I see. I can't complain.
You
But
said
hey, listen,
hipster.
I've been.
Okay, cool.
Hey, look, I've been really pumped, man, about this brass and soul. I've been wearing it pretty much every day, getting a full wearing, and it's just awesome. I mean, let me just show everyone kind of the box. Like the fact that you thought about a really nice leather kind of trumpet case, right? Really blew me away how you can kind of create an experience just with the packaging, because most of the time we throw the packaging in the trash. But this is one of those fragrances that I will be keeping the packaging on the shelf.
Mm.
So, really cool stuff, man. So, for those of you diving in, thanks so much for joining, man. We're hanging out, we're talking about brass and soul. JC, again, thank you so much for your time and just kind of gracing the channel. Um, so, tell me, man, like I know music is a big part of your life, and I saw your live stream with Mr. Cologne, and you talked a little bit about this, but tell me, how exactly did you put music into this fragrance?
Well, the first thing I had to do was decide what did I want to say with the fragrance. There's got to be some kind of narrative. So, rather than just say this fragrance is like music or trying to put musical elements into it, instead I wanted to make it a little bit more personal
Yeah,
and kind of share with the listener, well, not the listener, but so like the listener, those who are smelling, whatever it may be, um, a very specific experience. So what it's like for me to perform, in a show. And we're talking
hmm,
about a very specific performance from start to finish. So, I got that broad idea. It's like, okay, well, how do I work with that? How do I put that into a bottle? So it came down to, excuse me. Luckily, when I perform, by nature, playing music is a multi-sensory experience, meaning that you're using everything.
yeah,
So obviously, first thing we're using is the ears. Playing music, especially playing improvised music, you got to be listening non-stop. There's not a moment where you can just go on autopilot pedestrian mode. Always listening. Number two, visual, right? So obviously you're in a room, you see the ambience of the room, you see the people in the room, all that plays into how you perform the music, but also obviously how the listener experiences it based on what they see. And obviously, well, maybe not so obviously at a music performance, but smell does
yeah,
play a big role. So especially in an atmosphere where people are ordering food and drinks, or, the building itself is like, made of wood or something, so you can smell the material of the building. All that does play a role. And I'll be honest and say that I don't notice all of those things, especially the olfactory. I wouldn't say I notice the olfactory every performance. I mean, maybe I might notice it in the background, but to actually draw my awareness to it doesn't always happen. But when it does, and this project was a great opportunity to really dive into that,
yeah,
I noticed just how many elements there are in the room that affect me just by smell. So again, I was talking about like the wood in the walls, a woody, warm nuance. A lot of clubs and lounge atmospheres are typically kind of warm. You'll rarely walk into one of those rooms and it's like, oh, it's like kind of cold in here. It's always warm in some way.
yeah,
Maybe not hot, but it's cozy. But you have these other elements that juxtapose with that. You have, again, a part of the brief that I wrote for the fragrance is imagining someone in the front table ordering a gin and tonic right at the start of the show, which coincides with my trumpet being cold at the start of the show. Those two things having a coolness to them, a very distinct coolness, which in fragrance we can translate to a freshness, as an extreme freshness. So I wanted to capture that in the scent. So my perfumer, his name is Vince Kuczynski, he did that in a phenomenal way. I didn't even really tell him exactly how I wanted it to be fresh. I may have mentioned
mm,
lavender in a way, but he kind of took it and ran, and he ended up using juniper berry. He used juniper itself. He used the genicord. He used a lot of bright citruses. He used watery notes. And of course,
Yeah.
he did use lavender as well. So all of that creates a very extreme freshness, which I do think captures it very well. So those elements obviously in the room impact the smell. Um, Also, if we're talking about again, what else is in the room when I'm playing, when I'm performing, maybe someone ordered a dessert, and in my brief, when I wrote down the brief to kind of describe the narrative, that comes towards the end of the brief, like more towards the end of the performance when someone, they order a vanilla based dessert and it comes out like right at that moment. So the vanilla sneaks in later on in the dry down, which we can get to the more of the how the scent develops later on. But all in all, I wanted to kind of integrate the music itself. So, throughout the course of a performance, you have a variety of musical moods taking place. I think the performance starts very heavy, very bright, very in your face, very intense, which
Yeah.
represents the scent itself when you spray it on. And it goes through a bunch of varying moods, of in terms of intensity. Um, but it's still, again, there's a lot of variety there. And by the time we get to the end, lots of ups and downs and, sharp turns. And again, this is all based on the repertoire that the band is playing, and the kind of, energy that they're putting forth into the room. And by the end, things, we hit this massive climax point. We finish the show. The audience, they stand up, they applaud, ovation, whatnot. And everything is at like a resonant hum. There's an intensity. It's quiet. I would say
Yeah.
the fragrance kind of gets a little quieter in terms of being in your face, but there's still an intensity there, which I
Yeah.
think represents, you get to the end of the show, there's a buzzing feeling that I get when the show is done, when I feel like I've played my very best, I've expelled everything I can expel. There's this resonant hum. And I think that's represented in the fragrance, how it does kind of just linger at this kind of that same resonant hum in terms of the smell itself for a good while. At least if you're asking me, in my experience, I put it on last night, probably around 8 p.m. and I
Yeah.
could smell it this morning at 8 a.m. So
Nice.
it sticks around, it lingers.
It
So
does.
anyway,
It does.
I hope that kind of answers your question. I know I talked and talked, but
Oh no, no, not at all. That was great. I can definitely resonate with that jazz club feeling. So when you released, kind of your idea and your vision and your brief for this, it brought me back. And my wife and I, like, we love this jazz club here in DC, and hopefully you play there one day so we could see you out here in the DMV. Shout out to anybody that's also DC, Maryland, Virginia resident. But in this jazz club is called Blues Alley. It's been around for about
yeah,
50 or so years. You probably heard of it. And it's the most intimate setting. You go in, and it's mostly wooden, right? It's kind of like that old alley feel, how they used to build the clubs back then, and it's really warm. You can kind of maybe smell the kitchen. You can smell
hmm
this kind of, it's kind of like a basement vibe, right? So it's kind of not necessarily cold, but you get that woodiness, right? It
yeah,
kind of going into a wooden spot, and it's just, it's great. It's a great
yeah.
feeling, man. Let me
Yeah,
just
I've
take a
always wanted to
moment
go
here
there.
to say hello to everybody. Hey, thanks for joining, guys. I see we got Lave in the room. Ken,
Yeah.
good to see you, brother. DMV, another DMV native. We got Max Forte. How you doing?
Hey, Max, let's see, Jose's in here.
Yes,
What's up,
sir. What's
Jose?
going on, Jose? Sam Sherb Music. Shout out to my beautiful wife, African Sunflower. By the way, guys, please do not spam her. But she is my heart, and she's a big supporter of my channel, and she is the brains behind a lot of my ideas. So thanks so much for tuning in, honey. And cool, cool. So yeah, JC, let me tell you, man, this is my bottle, and Dent City right here.
I can see that. You got a bigger dent than I do in mine. How much you
I've been
been wearing
told
that thing?
to not spray too much in our apartment here. My wife is like, okay, you got enough on, but it's just like you said, that the zing, right? I think I got addicted to the opening JC because
Yeah.
it's so unique. It's like kind of soapy. It's fresh. It reminds me of some ginger. Now I don't think ginger is one of the notes listed in here, is it?
No, not officially, but there is kind of a medley of spices in there, for sure.
Gotcha. It's absolutely incredible, man. I think I'm gonna like reapply for the day here just because you got to do it right, you know. So cool, man. Well, JC, you mentioned your trumpet too, and how you are kind of picking it up during a performance. How it starts off cold and it's brass, it's cold to the touch. You start blowing air through it and playing. Did you have your trumpet with you by any chance?
It's on the other side of the room over here.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I was gonna ask if you could, bless us with a little tune tonight. But hey, if it's out of reach, no sweat.
I could play something. I could play something. Let me go grab it. One
Hey,
second.
we'd be grateful. Hey, thanks so much, brother. Hey, Jake Monteith. Yes, it is a beautiful bottle indeed.
Um, yeah, okay. Let me see.
Maybe some of the music on the bottle.
Yeah, this music here is, again, it is an original song on the back of the box here of mine. I will say that playing it a cappella on the trumpet is not very exciting. So I think I'd rather just play something else that's maybe more exciting.
For sure, for
If I were to
sure.
play this on piano or something like that, it might have more substance to it. But it's a song I still hold closely to me. Okay,
For sure.
let me just play a little bit of blues. First of all, can you hear that?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. It's a little something.
Nice, nice. Okay, okay. Good
Thanks,
stuff,
man.
brother. Hey, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, man.
It's it's always
Something you had mentioned earlier about you were kind of alluding to it, and I forgot to mention this earlier. In regards to how the scent represents the trumpet, again, it
yeah.
starts cold because, yes, it is a brass instrument. It is metal. It's an alloy, which is outside the point. It's metal. And obviously, when metal is sitting around at room temperature or lower, it's going to just get cold. So, obviously, again, at the start of the show, my trumpet is cold. So, my goal is to immediately start pumping warm wind through this instrument.
Hmm.
And naturally, that heat is going to affect the metal and it will warm up. So by the end of the performance, not only is my skin warm because I've been working, because this is a very physical instrument, I'm
Hmm.
literally like sweating after most gigs. In turn, the trumpet is also warm to the touch. And that is again represented in the scent as well. So it does start very invigoratingly fresh and it definitely warms down. Again, doesn't like disappear or lose its legs or anything, but it really deepens and richens and I think again is represented by this thing here.
I dig it. I dig it. Cool, man. So if I wanted to play the trumpet, where would I start?
Jeez. That's,
just, just, just out of argument's sake, if we got some folks on here that's like, you know what, trumpet's cool. I didn't know trumpet was cool. Could we get into it really quickly, or is it like,
the trumpet is a life. Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to play an instrument for fun, this is not the instrument. This is not it. You cannot approach the trumpet casually. It doesn't work. Almost any other
yikes?
instrument, like anything outside of brass instruments, so woodwinds like saxophone and flute and clarinet, but even those like saxophone might be more accessible, more approachable. But something like guitar and piano, those instruments, anybody could pick it up within, a few weeks' time. If you work at it every day, you might be able to play actual songs. The
Wow.
trumpet, no. The trumpet, I've been playing this instrument for 20 years and I'm
Wait,
still
you said
figuring it
20
out.
years?
Yeah. And I'm
Oh
still
my
figuring
goodness.
it out. It, it is an unforgiving instrument. It requires a lot of consistency and it feels very inconsistent at the same time. Every day is a little different. Some days you feel like you're like starting over. It's like, man, I was just playing this thing yesterday. And there's a lot that goes into why that is. But if you wanted to become a trumpet player,
Yeah.
or if you wanted to have a really hefty challenge in your life, it's like, you know what? I really want to challenge something that I can work at and I can like persevere through that will be rewarding. This might be that. But if you're looking for fun, this isn't the one. The fun, it comes later. We're talking like 10, 15 years down the road. But even then, you're
Wow.
still working at it every day. So I'm just being real. I love this instrument, but it is the hardest thing I've ever committed my life to, ever, by far.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it's only through the pain and the strife that I've grown to really actually love
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I respect that, man. It's putting your blood, sweat, and tears into something and working at it. And you know what? I can see that same level of effort, like with your fragrance, with the marketing for it. Just how you craft your content and your passion for fragrance. So that's cool to kind of see that blend over into those areas. You
it. And
know,
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that the trumpet has taught me the most in my life, because this thing, it's a teacher more than just an instrument. It has taught me about discipline. And what discipline means is doing the work when you don't feel like it. So there's some days where it's like, I played this thing yesterday. It beat me all the way up. I don't feel like doing it again today. But if I don't do it today, tomorrow's going to be even harder. Or if I don't do it today, I may not even do it tomorrow.
wow,
So it's like, you just got to jump right back in the fire
I hear
and,
you.
but every time you do it, you learn a little bit something more. You come out with a little bit of maybe hope. That's the hope. Anyway, I see Andrea is here from Curly Sense. I
Hey,
see Anthony,
shout out
Austin.
Andrea, shout out, shout out.
What's up, guys? Okay, anyway.
Awesome. Well, hey, there's never a day that I don't feel like wearing fragrance, so I guess I'm fragrant, olfactively disciplined, right?
I mean, at that point, you don't even need discipline. You just because you're not fighting through anything to put it on.
Well, I'll
In
tell
fact, you
you,
might
I
feel
have
worse if you don't.
undisciplined sprays of this, so I got to remember not to go through it too quickly because once
How
in a
many,
lifetime release.
how many sprays are you putting on when you wear it, would you say,
How many sprays?
per
Uh,
wearing?
some would say too many if they saw me spraying. I would say about, let me see, I go one, two, and I go one on the back, that's three. I do the crook of my elbows. Some people do that. So that's at five. And then I might do an extra one for the actual clavicle area, like kind of avoiding the chest, but kind of right on the collarbone. So what is that? Maybe seven or so.
Okay.
And then if I'm feeling froggy, I'll just do like a couple more, maybe in an hour or 2 hours. Like if I'm right about to head out the door fresh, like I'll just do a refreshing kind of thing. But
Okay.
that's how I
Yeah,
spray
I mean,
everything, by the way.
well, I think I mean, I'm not mad at you for one because
Don't
I
judge.
love the fragrance. I love the fragrance. Um, but I mean, again, this goes without saying, obviously, depending on what kind of environment you're going to be in. If you're just going to be in the house with the wife and you're putting on 8 sprays, yeah, I can see why she would want you to
Hey,
take it
listen,
easy a little
listen.
bit. But if you
You're
guys are
gonna
going to
get
be
me beat up,
outside,
man.
if you guys are going to be outside and the wind can pick it up and it can breathe, then
For
I'd say
sure.
spray away. But it is for a relatively fresh profile. It's pretty potent. 22% oils here,
Oh wow.
so it's concentrated.
And I love the color too. It almost is kind of like a brass and like rosy color,
Hmm.
the juice. So that's a really nice touch, and how that came together. So cool. So let me ask Jason, sorry, Justin, JC, um, what do you what do you want people to really take away from your fragrance? Like what do you want them to experience the most after kind of interacting with your fragrance? You know, what do you want them to walk away with?
That's a great question. And that kind of ties into a post I just made a couple of days ago, which I'm not going to dive too deep into because it is a can of worms. But it had to do with this idea that there were some people who have experienced my fragrance and their first thought is that it's not what they expected from me or it's not me, things
Yeah.
like that, which, again, I'm not going to deep into it. I'd say over the past couple of days, to be honest, if I'm being human here, it kind of aggravated me a little bit to hear that. Mainly not because like, oh, they don't like it. Like
Mhm.
whether you like it or not, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I would rather be understood first, and then you can make your decision if you like it or not. So that means you got to get all the facts. And the people who said that are the ones who didn't like watch my announcement video where I explained the scent from top to bottom. I'm just saying, we can choose to be aware and observant if we want to. So anyway, I'm pushing that off the table. To answer your question, I want, again, people to, this is me in a bottle. It is not only my experience performing, but it is me. Again, I wanted it to be multi-dimensional. So, some people have sprayed it and said, oh, it's just fresh. And it's like, I mean, I can't say what it's like on your skin. Everyone's skin is different, but it's not just fresh. It's just not. It's simple as that. It has a primary fresh component for sure, but
Right.
there's a lot going on in here. And again, I think the perfumer Vince Kuczynski did a phenomenal job creating these layers that have nuance that affect one another to the
Yeah.
point where it's hard to really pick out any one thing or actually like everything all individually. Even when you start to pick out something, something is coming in and
Yeah.
swooping in and
Yeah.
mixing with it.
It's
And
like an
that's how
oscillating chord.
yeah, it is changing the entire time it's on the skin. Whether you realize it or not, it is changing. In fact, again, I put it on yesterday and my girlfriend Grace, she is very familiar with this fragrance. She's been
Mhm.
wearing it herself for months, long before it was released because I had these little lab samples. And she has a bottle herself. She's been wearing it. I've worn it around her a lot. Yesterday, I put it on. I went to go see her, and she couldn't recognize it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what are you wearing? That smells amazing." I'm like, "It's brass and soul." And she's like, "What?" And even then, I had to smell it because I had a collared shirt on. I like to spray the inside of my collarbones when I have an open collar. So I
Yeah.
hadn't really sniffed it yet. I'm like, "Let me sniff." I'm like, "It is different." It's not, and I think it was a little bit warmer yesterday, and that kind of affected the scent. It got a little bit more balsamic. There's a
Hmm.
note in here called Bushman's candle, which is a bush. And essentially, when it dies, from what I understand, you can extract a resin from its bark. And when you
Oh.
burn that resin, it gives off these balsamic, ambery, woody, vanilla, even smoky qualities. It's very multifaceted. And I think it's a really
Mm.
special addition to this, and it really comes out in the deep dry now. So there's some people I've seen say, oh, it's kind of balsamic in a way, and there's some kind of sweetness that's not just vanilla. It's that Bushman's candle.
Ah.
So anyway, I'm veering way off course here. I want people to take away the fact that this is multidimensional. It's very fresh. Now, I myself, in my videos, people may not see me as an outgoing person, and I don't really consider myself to be outgoing. I'm not an extrovert by any means, but I do tend to try to carry myself with a jovial nature, with a more of a brightness when I talk to people. Um, some people who see my videos might think otherwise, might think that I'm just super calm and basically like a limp sock, with a voice. I don't know. I don't know where that
Sheesh.
came from. But I feel like I can bring energy to the table when I really want to. I feel like that's
Yeah.
represented here. But at the same time, I can be debilitatingly analytical and I overthink a lot. And I always like to think before I speak, again, which can come to a fault at times. But I think that's represented here as well. There's a kind of a deep, rich thoughtfulness underneath. There's development throughout, and there is, again, nuance. And I'm not trying to talk myself up. Again, if I'm really just assessing who I think I am up to this point in my life, that's how I would describe myself in a very topical sense. And I do think I took that and put it into this bottle. So I want people to know that this is a multi-sensory, this is a multi-dimensional, this is a multifaceted experience. And it's one that's literally coming from my heart. So this is me in a bottle. Best way I can put it.
I dig it. Hey, I dig it, man. That's a perfect segue because what I really wanted to ask too, like kind of just going through this process, before I get into that question, did you like pick the notes yourself, or did you kind of just give the idea to Mr. Vince?
Mm, great question. In these scenarios, when you're working with a perfumer, first of all, the vision, the general profile, the the message I wanted to convey, obviously I created all of that.
Right.
And I did lots of editing with it, and it was just, I mean, it was a beautiful process. It actually moved kind of quickly when I got into it, but I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of output. So when you hand that over to a perfumer, you're not only working with a chemist,
Yeah.
you're working with an artist. So, when I remember I would have conversations with Mon, who's the fragrance and flavor company that provided the perfumers, provided all the ingredients that they were using and all that. When we were talking to them, they suggested to us, because this is our first time doing this, so like, you know what? You don't want to give an overabundance of information to your perfumer because you're working with an artist. You want to give them a chance to interpret what you're saying and flex their artistic freedom in a way and surprise you.
Huh.
So in my brief, I threw in a few key notes. I threw in lavender from what I remember. I think I did throw in gin in there, and maybe vanilla. Those are like three notes that I really threw in there, and those are
Interesting.
in the scent. There's a couple of things that I
Nitro?
mentioned in gin.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we get gin, right? Um, and there's a few things I threw in my brief. I can't even remember now that he did not even include because he made some kind of artistic decision like I don't know if I can really blend these in. Um, so the end result of that is him taking these elements I gave him. I even gave him like specific recordings of music that I was inspired by. Again, with the entire narrative, he took all that information. He's, kind of integrated it into his own artistic filter and added in what he felt right with his own expertise, right? So the rest of the structure that he filled out was his way of interpreting my vision. So that's a long way of answering your question, saying no, I did not say I want top notes of bergamot and lemon and mint, and then I want heart note. You could probably do that, but I just think there's a magic to really letting an artist do art
Yeah.
and surprising you. Because what ended up happening is after I gave him all the information, he synthesized all that information, he interpreted it, and he created three different interpretations of my vision. All of them kind of utilizing the same components, but kind of reproportioned. So
Hmm.
they did smell quite different from one another. And then from that, I chose the interpretation of his that I enjoyed the most. We talked about it on the phone. We tweaked it. Um, Talked with him through how he ended up interpreting, his process of the elements he was taking from what I told him and the decisions he was making to add certain things or remove certain things. We talked through all that stuff. And it was really eye-opening to just kind of, you put in a lot of work and
Yeah.
you surrender it and you let it go, and then you just wait for that boomerang to come back and you see what's on it. And that was really, really amazing, especially if you're working with a great perfumer. I mean, I got it, and it took me about a week of smelling this in its early stages to realize I've never smelled anything like this before, because I kept trying to, like, I think this reminds me of, I spent a week trying to, like, I think this kind of, no, not, I go to smell that in my clothes. No, it doesn't smell like that. I think it kind of, and then after a week of that, I'm like, this smells like nothing else. What? And I was blown away by that. So anyway, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's always interesting just to kind of get a kind of like a peek right into the mind or the process of working with the mind of a perfumer, right? And that's really cool for me to hear because some of you guys may not know, but I'm actually an independent perfumer and self training, right? And kind of just going on that journey of
Hmm.
independent study and reading all these different things and learning all these materials and acquiring all these materials, right? Without the backing of a lab or 2 years at what's it like IFF or 2 years in grass at many of these institutions. So really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. Just kind of understanding art and letting an artist kind of do what they want to do, right, without giving too many guidelines. So that's awesome. When I saw the juniper berry note listed, I was like, "Yep, of course JC would have some juniper berry in this fragrance because I don't know how many fragrances you've probably reviewed that have had juniper berry that you've appreciated the juniper berry in the fragrance.
It's one of my favorite notes for sure.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's not why I chose gin.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted a boozy facet, but I knew I wanted something that was still going to be cooling and invigorating and fresh. And gin was the go-to for that. And it just so happens to come from juniper and
Great,
juniper berries. So it was a win-win.
great stuff, man. So going back to what you were saying about kind of knowing who you are and like knowing what you wanted people to take away from this fragrance, my follow-up to that would be, what have you learned the most about yourself throughout this entire Zed creative process? Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't like, you telling us it was kind of, what is it, 2 years in the making, was it?
Uh, a little over a year and a half.
A little over a year and a half. So that's quite a long time to kind of be
Yeah.
involved in the creation of something. Like,
Yeah.
you're working on it, you're collaborating with other people, you have to put effort on making this thing come through. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about that. What did you learn about yourself through this?
This was, first of all, I am forever thankful to George Zaharoff.
Mm,
I mean, thankful does not even do it justice. He is family at this point, and him providing this platform that nobody gets to do this. This is crazy when you really look at it. Somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I I love what you do. I want to give you a platform to create your own fragrance from the ground up. You're going to have basically you're going to control everything from start to finish. Don't worry about cost." Like what? What?
what?
So what it was for me was, as a musician performing, which is what I do essentially for a living, what I've been doing for over a decade at this point, um, it's vulnerable. It's
Mm,
very vulnerable. You get on stage, especially again when we're dealing with improvised music, because what we're doing when we improvise is we're turning music into language. Just as you would get up, say, said, "Hey, Kaz, we want you to get up and speak to the youth here in the
yeah.
church on some issue. Can you do it tomorrow?" And you're like, "Sure." You don't have time to, you're not going to prepare a whole speech. You're going to get in there, you're going to understand what you want to say, and you're going to say it in your own words, using the language that you know, which is English. It's the same thing here. It's vulnerable when you're improvising. And we do it every day. Again, we're doing it now. We did not plan out exactly what we're going to say. You wrote down
Yeah.
some questions, but in terms of when you would ask those questions, finding the right time, being sensitive to the vibe, improvising. That's
Oh yeah.
exactly what we do with music on stage. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of give and take and exchange and knowing when to talk, knowing when to be quiet, all that stuff. So it's vulnerable. But I've gotten used to it to a sense. I still get nervous here and there. What this platform has become for me is another arena to
Hmm.
experience vulnerability in a different
Interesting.
way. Um, because once I was handed the opportunity, the first question that came to mind is, okay, what am I going to do? Because believe it or not, I felt so undeserving. I felt so um, underqualified for this opportunity that I couldn't even think clearly about how I would use it. I was, frankly, I was
Wow.
scared. I was like, man, what am I
That's
going to
real.
do? How am I going to make something that's good? Like, doubt seeps in right away. So I battled through that for, I want to say, the first quarter of the process, roughly. Really battling, like, is this going to be good? Like, you get stuck in your own thoughts. And even when you convince yourself, like, okay, that's what I'm going to do, you sit with that decision for a while and you're like, is that what I really want to do? What if that's not good? What if only I think it's good? But
Yeah.
what I had to learn was like, push all that what if off the table and say what you want to say. Simple as that. And if you do it sincerely, you will be unique inherently. And that's how it works as human beings. When you go into the world and you present your truest self to people, you are automatically going to be a very unique person. And you're going to really come off as people as memorable, instead of trying to be something you're not or fit into the vibe or whatever, which we all fall victim to, especially in a new place when we don't know anybody. This was the same thing. This was a new environment. I don't know how this works exactly. We're, learning as we go. And it came with a lot of insecurity. And it's like, man, what if I say what I want to say, but people don't hear me? But I had to really fall back on my musical experience, and because that's what I go through with this thing. It's like, I'm trying to say what I want to say. I hope you hear me, but I'm going to say it, and I can't be afraid. And I can't even be upset if it doesn't come out the way I want it to, because I did it with sincerity and I can't take it back. That
Wow.
especially applies to music. If I go to play a certain note and I miss that note, I can't be mad. I have to keep going because again, I can't take it back. I can't be like, wait, guys, forget I played that note. It's out
Let's
there.
run that back.
It's out in the ether. It's floating in the room. It's in people's ears. And I've learned a lot through music in this way of how to really be yourself, even in the midst of things not going as you expect.
Yeah.
Miles Davis is a master of this. Miles Davis, the trumpet player, if those of you who are not familiar with him, um,
Sure.
at first listen, people hear Miles Davis and it's like, oh, he sounds really simple and even like a little like kind of unclean in terms of his approach to some notes. He cracks notes and things like that. But if you really dig into him, he was nobody but Miles at all times of the day. And especially when he played, even if he made a mistake, he played it again. That was his thing. It's like, oh, if I miss a note, I'll miss it again. And then I'll miss it again. There's no mistakes. There are no mistakes. Everything can be worked with. Everything can be shifted to another perspective that you would not have had to do if you didn't have to adapt in that moment. So that's universal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's kind of like just taking, it's that age old adage where it's like, you take the lemons and you just make lemonade, right? You make the best of whatever situation that you come up with and you maintain who you are, right? And you keep going because on the other end, no one really knows what you have up here. They only know what you
That
get.
is the
So,
thing. That is the
yeah,
biggest element. You hit it on the head. We
for
often
sure.
think that people know exactly what we know and feel
Yeah.
exactly what we feel in the moment. And especially, again, doing something as vulnerable as performing or putting a fragrance out there. It's like nobody, I had to learn this the hard way growing up. I can remember when I was in high school performing, and I'd go up to play a solo and I would miss a note or something like that. And in my head, I'm thinking, everybody heard that. Now everybody knows I messed up. So now I need to let them know that I know that I messed up. so they don't think I'm just oblivious to my mistakes. So I would be like, I make this big visual scene about it. And I would do that for years and years. And my dad would be like, you need to stop doing that. I'd have mentors say, you need to stop doing that. Nobody knows. But here's the thing. Even if they did know, they don't care. Nobody wants to see you fail. People want to see you recover at the
Mm,
very least. People love that. People, because first of all, when they see you fall, it's like, okay, then now they're reminded in the midst of doing whatever you're doing as great as you're doing it, they're reminded, okay, they're human too.
yeah.
Thank God. But now they want to see you like, what are you going to do? Are you going to recover? Like, are you going to come back from that? Those people, because there are people out there who are conniving and want to see you fail. You don't need them in your life. Simple
Yeah.
as that. Let them go. And they're the minority anyway. Anyway, that just came to mind. I had to get that out.
No, I dig it, man. I dig it. Well said. Well said, brother. It's I can definitely relate to that in a lot of different instances, you know. So with this entire Zeb Creators process, and for those just joining, here's the bottle again. Really, really beautiful design here. Would you do something like this again, Justin, if you had the opportunity?
Totally. I mean, it's all refinement, and you only
Yeah.
refine through repetition. So, yes, I'd love to do it again. I already am kind of thinking about how I would do it differently. The process would
Nice.
be a little bit more streamlined now because you're not like bumping into walls the whole way to the finish. Now it's like, okay, I know what this road looks like. I know what I need to do. And now that I've been scared and have done it scared, I'm not scared anymore. So, totally would love to do it again.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we got a Q&A question here from
Sure.
Crass Gabriella. What was the most difficult part in this creative process from putting the fragrance together until launch?
Mm. Honestly, the most difficult part was starting.
Yeah,
Again, it was in the midst of getting the opportunity and trying to figure out, first of all, assessing, okay, I feel insecure about this. All right, so I'll put that here next to me. Now I need to decide in the midst of my insecurity, what am I going to do? I have to do something. I can't just freeze up and do nothing. I have to actually move. So it was deciding what direction I'm going to go in. And then once I decided on that direction, it's like, okay, I'm insecure, but I decided on my direction. Now I have to believe in it and I
wow.
have to put my voice into it and trust that it will be heard and let it go. That was the hardest part. And again, that was like walking through the door at the very beginning. That door is there. George Zaharoff said, here's the door. You got to open it though.
You got to walk
You got to
through it.
open it. He's like, I constructed it. It took me ages. Here's the door. It's like, I don't know what's on the other side of this door, but I can't just not walk through it. I
Yeah.
mean, it cost them so much to make this door. So you walk through and then I open up that door and I'm in a dark room. It's like, okay, I can't see anything in this room. It was like a little bit darker behind me, but it's even darker here. And that's the uncertainty of like, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to keep walking. And pretty soon, you figure out where the light switch is. Okay, flip on the lights. Okay, I can see the room now. It's empty. Now what? Now I got to start furnishing this room. And then you furnish it a little bit and you start to be like, oh, you know what? I like where I put that couch. I'm happy
Yeah.
with that decision. Okay. I think I'm going to knock this wall down, put a window. And by the end, it's like, man, I'm living here now. But now I'm like, okay, I built this room. I'm ready to make another one, lock up that room and move on.
I dig it. And you know what? Like with fragrances, we'll never know. Just like you said, like we'll never know what the people that have constructed these fragrances, like what their idea is. Like, did I hit that right? Did I hit that note right? Did I blend this formula properly, right? Like for them, it's them walking through that door and putting the furniture wherever they please, right? So I'm pretty sure even Vince himself is probably sitting back going, "Man, like I hope like this formula was doing
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a
Especially
great
when
point.
you have access to like thousands of materials, right? And that's kind of a mind blowing process for me as like an independent person. It's just like
Mm.
I don't have a lab. Like it's gonna take a long time to really get some of these materials. Not saying you need them
Yeah.
to make a formula, but you know, just the depth of exposure to the different types of profiles.
Mm.
But anyway, yeah, that is really insightful. You know, for you to say kind of the way you broke that down. I feel like even that experience can be put into a fragrance too, where like you're kind of blind,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
blind and you don't really know what's happening, but then all of a sudden you kind of start finding your way.
Mm.
Um, so man, that's awesome. Is there a favorite part of the fragrance for you? Like maybe the beginning, the heart, or is the whole thing just a package deal?
Ah, that's tough. Man, that's tough.
Because it's,
You,
I mean, it's unique, man. It does a different thing at
yeah.
like every hour. So
You know,
it's,
I gotta say this, and I've been hesitant to say this in any situation. Um, I think this, and maybe I should say it. I don't know. People might expect this. This is my favorite fragrance in my collection right now. This is the only fragrance I can think of in years that I've worn like 5 days in a row, which has been like the past 5 days. And so I've just been wearing it over
that
and
makes
over.
two of us.
And it's the first fragrance I can think of in a long time that every time I wear it, I don't regret it. I'm not tired of it. I smell it from every time I'm not tired of it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not trying to be like, yeah, because I made it, it's amazing. Like, no, because of how it came together, I'm just like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So if I had to choose a favorite part, I can't. I
No, that's
can't
fair. Hey, that's
because
fair.
every part of it affects me differently.
I hear
When
you.
I spray it on, when I first spray it on, my eyes widen. I feel like my pupils dilate. And I'm like, oh my gosh, every time. The opening hits me every time. I'm like, what? And my mouth starts watering and but then by the midpoint you're in this kind of soapy but warming kind of mode that's starting to it's shifting.
For sure, man.
And that part I love getting wafts of that because I still get remnants of that opening, but I'm also getting a foresight into what's to come. I love that. I wouldn't say it's as exciting, so to speak, but it's a little bit more anticipatory. And the deep dry down, I think, is really good.
Oh, that's
Um,
some real stuff, man. That dry down is some real stuff.
it's
I'm
and
telling you.
not everybody waits for that deep. We're talking 7, 8 hours in. At least for me, I can't say it's gonna last that long on everybody, but on my skin, this thing is a 12 plus hour fragrance. And in that deep, deep dry down, we're talking Blues Alley has closed. Everybody's left, and I'm there like, just at the bar, just taking in the room. Candles are burning pretty low, and everything is just like quiet and warm. And that part of it, I think it's the most sensual. And that's like the part of it that you want to get closer to, I think.
It gets sweet
Anyway, yeah,
in the dry down,
yeah,
right? It gets
yeah.
really like really warm. Like it starts off a little cool, kind of like morning. I'm going out. I'm going to
Hmm.
work, right? Kind of boss. I'm wearing a boss fragrance, but then it starts to get a little bit warmer, maybe like a little date night-ish as
Hmm.
it like
Hmm.
dries down. It gets a little sweeter and warmer. I'm like, oh, this is quite something. I was
I think,
tempted actually to post something about this when I first got in. Thank you, by the way.
yeah, man.
Allowing me to kind of share in this experience, this project. But I had to hold myself back from saying anything about this immediately because I was like, wait. There's to do that. That I would be lazy. Okay, I'm like, nah, I can't do that. I can't. And I've done that with other fragrances and it was
Sure, we
fine.
all
But
have.
with this
We all
one,
have.
I was like, wait, no, I gotta figure out like what's really happening here, and I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did.
Well, I really appreciate that more than you know. I mean, obviously, anyone is welcome to experience and to share about the fragrance however they wish. But those that choose to really dig into the layers that I tried to put into this thing and spend time with it, spending multiple wearings and noticing how different it can be in every wearing. I really appreciate that because again, that's me. That's me being understood. That's what I feel like. Again, that's what I want people to get out of it is really getting me in it. And I feel like that takes some time, at
Mm,
least with the fragrance. So
I dig it. I dig it. So, JC, I know we're coming up on an hour. I got one last question,
sure,
and
sure.
then we can start to kind of wrap up. Thank you again for kind of just, blessing our
Yeah,
channel
man.
here and our platform. Um, what do you see for yourself on the horizon? Like after such a big project, such a big launch, with the Z creators, like what do you see or kind of envision for yourself after such a project like this?
Hmm. You know, one of my biggest struggles is being in the moment.
Mm,
Um, because again of how analytical I can be and how I can start to already be formulating what I need to do tomorrow while I'm doing something really cool now. And I always have to catch myself. For that reason, I have tried to kind of stay away from that thought. I'm trying my best. And even then, it takes me a lot of effort to keep reminding myself that this is actually happening. And I'm
yeah.
receiving messages from people saying, like, this is amazing. I love this. It's my favorite fragrance I've smelled this year. And just like, and I have to keep saying, like, this is actually happening. So I'm making a conscious effort to kind of just revel in this moment. The best I could say to answer that question would be, I would love to do it again, but perhaps bigger and whatever bigger looks like. I would love to do it again because, again, I want to refine myself in this process and this experience. So that's the best I could say with it. And if we're talking about fragrance creation, putting something to market, I'd love to do that again on the end of my other pursuits, which is, my channel and all that. I just plan to keep doing that and growing that. And again, natural refinement as I go.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely respect that, man. Like just staying in the moment um, is something that I feel like we just are losing over time because there's just so much pressure on like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's definitely a conscious effort that we have to work towards. So cool.
that's right.
Master perfumer Justin Copeland, is that what's
Oh,
happening next? I saw those
mm,
pictures, man, with the pipettes and everything. I was like, oh, I didn't know he was a perfumer.
no, I still have yet to stretch my legs in that realm. But I know you're on that for sure. I'm
Yeah, I'm
seeing
doing my best, man.
Tammy loves fragrances left a funny comment. You both sound so
Yeah.
alike. Your voices are very similar. Hard to tell them apart. By the way, it's a compliment.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. I definitely
We'll
did
have
not
to
plan that.
we'll have to listen back and see
Yeah.
this. It sound like we're like one of us is talking to ourselves or something.
Yeah. Justin stole my voice, though. It's his fault. Nah, I'm kidding.
How old are you again? Who's
Oh,
older?
man. Don't start pulling the age card. Don't
Who's
don't do
older?
that.
I forgot. I forgot. Who's older? I forgot. I can't remember.
Hey, man, look. 30's knocking, 30's knocking on the door, man. I'm not, I embrace it. So,
For sure.
TLTG reviews. What's going on, Ross? Good to see you.
Hey man.
So cool. Well, hey, JC, I really appreciate this, man. I mean, this was awesome. Kind of just hanging out, chatting about this awesome fragrance. Folks, if you guys don't already, go ahead and follow JC's page, Stay Fresh Productions, right? IG, same thing on YouTube.
Yeah, you search for that on YouTube, you'll find me.
Cool, cool, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, JC, thanks so much. I appreciate your time, bro, and I definitely plan to dive into this more, experience it more, and just just stay connected. So
Man, I appreciate that. Again, thanks for all the kind words you've said and for all the time you spent with the fragrance. I just want to remind folks that once again, this is limited. This is a small batch and we're burning right through it. So once it's gone, it'll be gone forever. So if you're interested in getting it, now would be a good time. You can do it at Zaharoff.com. And that goes for me or Ross's fragrance, Business Over
absolutely.
Pleasure, or Andre's fragrance, The Siren. They're all limited quantity. And once they are out, you'll never see them again. And we actually mean that because some people haven't really meant that, but we actually mean that. They'll be gone forever.
It's now or never, folks. Cool.
Yeah.
But hey, thanks so much, Justin. You have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and tell Grace we said hello.
Sure thing. Thanks, man. Great to talk to you.
Hey, my pleasure. Peace.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. So, I mean, that was an amazing live stream, guys. It was just a pleasure just sitting down with JC, kind of just, picking his mind about, what he envisions just for himself in the future, how he feels about the process that it takes to, create something like this, to collaborate on something like this. And I think it's really special, an opportunity like that, just to hear about the behind the scenes and to kind of hear about how he's thinking about this opportunity. So, again, guys, this is an awesome release, a very special limited release. I can't wait to really try full bottles of the other two. That's Business Over Pleasure by TLTG Reviews, Ross, and The Siren by Curly Sense, Andrea Curly Sense. So, guys, I highly recommend if you can. If it's in your ability to do so, try out these fragrances. At least one, you'll get a sample of the other two. If you're able, try all three of them. A lot of work and effort went into these fragrances, and it's always respected when people give their all and really go ham on something. When they put their heart in something. So, guys, I'm loving Brass and Soul right now, and I'm enjoying it. I'm so glad that he blessed me with a bottle, and just from start to finish, the presentation and the experience are both equally matched, and I'm really happy to just to be a part of this campaign. So, well, thanks so much for joining, guys. Thanks for supporting our channel and just tuning in for this live. I will make sure I save this. But everyone have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay tuned. Take care. Gotta make sure this gets saved. Do not want to delete this.